want to talk about how I built a relationship with the divine. I have been very much in love with God since I was a child, a very young child, because I didn't have a lot of love in my life. I was an awkward child. Other children made fun of me, and I didn't have any kind of outlet for any kind of aggression or anything. As a matter of fact, I was trained to believe that pain is weakness leaving the body. Thank you, Gunny. So for me, my relationship with God was built by me. I chose to be baptized in the Catholic Church when I was 7 years old because I already had a relationship with God, and my family was encouraging me to become Catholic so I could strengthen that relationship with God. My grandfather, from as long as I could remember, called me Sister Angelina because I was so devout to God. It was assumed that I would become a nun. And I actually did go down that path. However, just because I had a relationship with God didn't mean that I swallowed everything that was fed to me. I very constantly considered the words that I was reading in the church and looked at it in my own life. And this isn't something that you would normally see in a child, but that was something that I did. And I remember falling completely in love with God the very first time I ever read the book of Job. For me, that was a revelation of God showing me how much He trusted my ability to hold what I held in my life. He trusted me to be able to, time after time, be hurt and still show love to others. Now, what really truly attached me to God was actually the end of the book of Job. After Job had already survived all of the inflictions, if you will, after he went through all of that, God talked to him and said, yes, I know you got hurt, but you don't quite understand life. You weren't there to see the rise of the mountains or the ocean. I was. And so for me, this was an even bigger moment of recognition that, yes, I may go through pain as a human, but there is nothing that God would ever give me that I could not handle. And so for me, the pain that compiled and compiled and compiled in my life, which, trust me, there was a lot, it was never a problem because it was proof to me that God had faith in me. And I remember being, and I don't want to say prideful, but I was so proud that I was able to hold the pain that I refused to hand over my yoke. Many times I refused to hand over my yoke because I knew that God would hold it. I knew that Jesus was my brother and that He would help me, but I had to do it on my own. And this reminds me of the song Mama Tried, right? So it doesn't matter how many times we tell our children the same exact thing. They, in their own experience, sometimes wish to experience that which they have to go through. And that's me. I'm the type of person that chooses to experience pain in order to be able to heal from it. That may seem insanely crazy to people, but that's what I do. And that's what my soul has always done. I learned it at the very young age of 6 that there's people out there that are very lonely because they're not necessarily accepted by societal standards. I was one of them. And so for me, life became a kind of a peck and hunt kind of game. How many people can I find that feel left behind but are actually brilliantly genius or eccentrically amazing? Those people the ones that nobody else really cared to get to know, became my best friends. And it was a part of my mission because I too understood what it was like to be cast aside. And I didn't let it pickle my heart. As a matter of fact, I let it strengthen my heart. And I let it show me that a little bit of kindness could literally change someone's life. And I kept that in my heart. Now, don't get me wrong, there came a time finally when I gave over my yoke. And I specifically remember that day. I finally fell to my knees and I said, God, my hope is fading. Please fill me with hope. And that began the last 5 years of my life. I didn't just pray and wait. I prayed and I put my nose to the ground to find the problem. And I spent 5 years diving so deep into each and every one of those pains that I came out the other side with a completely different perspective again. And not only did I see everything I've gone through as my witness as Job, but also as my duty to humankind. I have been on both sides of the desk of a therapist's office. I have planned treatments. I have reviewed treatments. I have justified treatments. And then I recognized what was missing, and I found it for myself. God is there to help us. But if you sit there and you just ask for things like strength or wealth, and then you don't do the work that is required of you, you are praying for no reason. If you ask God for strength, He doesn't hand you strength. He hands you adversity to build your own strength. I recognized that at a very young age, which is why I refused to hand over my yoke until it came to the point where I knew I could handle it and that I could stand and walk beside Jesus for as long as I needed until I could walk on my own again and take my yoke back so that I could bear my own weight, so that I could learn how to hold that weight with my pinky. Our relationship with God should always change. It should not be you on your knees begging for something that you're not working for. It is you asking for the strength to continue to face that adversity. Life is not simple. Don't think I think that. It's not. It is extremely difficult, which is why a lot of people don't face it and they just distract themselves. I am not one of those people. My relationship with God has literally been so strong since I was 3 years old that my entire life has been this mission. Every time I come against something that I don't understand, I think back to Job and I try to understand it. Even if it is from a finite perspective that my human mind can understand, my soul digs deeper because my soul knows there's the answer right on the other side. So, your relationship with the divine, which doesn't just include God the Father, it also includes God the Mother. Think about this. We think of gender because we're human and we are a sexually procreating humanity, okay? We have defined our roles of gender based on what we understand as sexually procreating humans. We don't think beyond sex. But God the Father and God the Mother are the same entity, but the different approach you take to the divine. For me, if I need guidance, if I need a strong hand that says, no, you're doing this, I go to God the Father for my guidance. If I need comfort because something has happened that causes me pain, I go to God the Mother. And I present myself as the child, because I am. And I ask not for whatever is missing in my life. I ask for that which will help me find what I have in my life. I don't focus on lack. I focus on all of the beautiful gifts that I get on a daily basis. And what I consider to be a gift has nothing to do with the material world. I consider it an absolute gift to be able to watch an ant for as long as I wish, because that ant, in its behavior, teaches me something, and it connects me closer to God. I collect pebbles because they remind me of my finite life compared to the one who watched the mountains rise and the seas form and the skies change. I wasn't there as a human. Therefore, the only way for me to understand this world is by observing it in a way that allows me to see the beauty and infinite love of God. I never once walked away from God. I only walked away from those who were teaching the contradictions that didn't make sense. My relationship with the divine has always been beyond the church. It started before the church, and it definitely lasted through all of the years I didn't go to church. Because that building was made with tools. And I'm pretty sure it says in the Bible, altars aren't supposed to be made with tools. But, that's neither here nor there. My church is nature. Because the only thing that is perfect is nature. Because that's the only thing that was made by perfect hands. The divine hands are perfect. That which was created naturally is perfect. Oh, and by the way, that includes you. You were perfectly designed for a perfect plan by a perfect divine being. How could you possibly be imperfect? I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Bye.